So you've had a C-section before, and now you're pregnant again. You already know this journey comes with a big, important question mark. How you'll give birth this time around is a huge personal choice. And today, we're going to walk through what that looks like together. You're probably asking yourself, what's the plan for this delivery? It's a massive decision, and our whole goal here is to unpack the information you need so you can feel confident and really empowered as you make it. When you're in this spot, it's kind of like standing at a crossroads. There are two main paths you can take. But before we explore where they lead, it really helps to get a handle on the language everyone uses. Let's start with the basics. Okay, first up is VBAC. You'll hear this acronym everywhere. It just stands for vaginal birth after cesarean, and yep, it's exactly what it sounds like, having a vaginal birth after you've previously had a C-section. And then there's TOLAC, trial of labor after cesarean. Now, this is a really key distinction. TOLAC is the process, it's the attempt itself. You can think of it like this. TOLAC is the journey, and a VBAC is the successful destination. So let's put these two big choices side by side. On one hand, you've got a scheduled repeat C-section. It's a planned surgery, and it completely avoids labor. On the other hand, you have the trial of labor, the TOLAC, where the goal is a VBAC. But, and this is important, if that trial isn't successful, it ends in an unplanned C-section. All right, so let's walk down that first path for a minute. Why do so many people hope for a VBAC? What are the upsides we're talking about? Well, when a VBAC is successful, the benefits are pretty huge. For starters, you get to avoid another major abdominal surgery. That usually means a much shorter recovery time, a lower risk of infection, and less blood loss. And for a lot of people, it also offers that personal, deeply felt experience of a vaginal birth they were hoping for. And the benefits aren't just about this one birth. They can be long-term too. If you're thinking you might want more kids down the road, a successful VBAC helps you avoid some of the risks that can build up with multiple C-sections, things like placenta issues or potential injuries in future pregnancies. Okay, but an informed choice means we have to look at the other side of the coin. It's absolutely essential to be really clear-eyed about the potential risks that come with a trial of labor. The biggest risk, and honestly the one that frames this entire conversation, is something called a uterine rupture. This is when the scar from your previous C-section on your uterus breaks open during labor. So you're probably wondering, how common is this, really? Well, for most people who are good candidates for a VBAC, the risk is low. We're talking about 1 to 2%. It's a small number, for sure, but because the consequences can be so serious, it's a central factor in this whole decision. But, and this is so important, you have to balance that risk with the likelihood of success. About 70% of people who attempt a trial of labor go on to have a successful vaginal birth. So while the risk is real, the odds of success are definitely in your favor. But this isn't just some generic pros and cons list that's the same for everyone. Oh no, the right choice for you really depends on your specific medical history. Think of it like a map that guides this decision. And what's the most important landmark on that personal map? It's the scar on your uterus from your last C-section. So why is that one little detail so incredibly critical? Because it turns out not all uterine scars are created equal. A low transverse incision, that's a side-to-side cut on the lower part of the uterus, carries the lowest risk of rupture. And thankfully, that's also the most common type. A vertical cut, on the other hand, especially a high vertical or classical cut, makes that risk go up significantly. Now, this is so important. The scar you see on your skin tells you absolutely nothing about the scar on your uterus. The only way to know for sure what kind of incision you have is to look at the operative report from your previous C-section. That medical record is absolutely essential. All right, now for the final piece of this puzzle. The next few things we're going to look at use language that comes directly from medical consent forms. It lays out the stakes in really stark terms, but understanding this is a crucial part of making a truly informed decision. This is a sobering point, but it's a critical one to absorb. What this means is that if a major complication, like a uterine rupture, actually happens, the risk of serious harm is greater for the baby than it is for the birthing parent. But on the other side of that reality is this one. If the trial of labor is successful, your recovery is very likely to be faster and have fewer issues. This is really the fundamental trade-off that's at the heart of this entire decision. And this is the worst-case scenario. It's hard to read, I know, but it means that if a rupture happens, it becomes an absolute emergency, where there might not be enough time to prevent devastating outcomes.
And there's one more potential consequence to be aware of. In the event of a rupture, a hysterectomy, the complete removal of the uterus, might be necessary to save your life. And that would, of course, mean you couldn't carry another pregnancy.
So, after weighing all of this, what becomes really clear is that there is no single right answer. This is a deeply personal decision, one you make with your doctor and your family. Because no matter which path you choose, the goal is always, always the same: a healthy parent and a healthy baby. So, we'll leave you with this thought. We've explored the landscape, but the next step is yours to take. Armed with all this information, what is the first, most important question that you are going to ask your doctor? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.